Miles O'Brien at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. First, I want to bring you to live pictures from the White House as President Bush makes his way to Bethesda, Maryland. The National Institutes of Health is his destination. There for an event, and we do expect him to address the issue of the Columbia tragedy when he is there. President Bush on the South Lawn into Marine One. We will keep you posted on that and, of course, bring you his remarks live when they happen. Let's bring you up to date on what's going on here at the Johnson Space Center and, for that matter, all around the country. 48 hours after the Space Shuttle Columbia disintegrated into thousands of pieces over Texas and many other parts of the country. We have been listening this morning to a briefing, a rather extensive one out of NASA headquarters. Matter of fact, it's still going on. We'll just show you the live pictures as it continues. The Associate Administrator for Human Spaceflight, Bill Reedy, a veteran astronaut, along with one of the key people involved in safety and quality assurance there at NASA, have been addressing reporters' questions for quite some time to come. And it seems like they will be for quite some time to come, I should say. Most of this was about reassuring the public that this is a comprehensive and open investigation, not too much technical detail. We've been listening to it fairly closely. Joining me to listen, along with me, listening to it is Norm Thagard, shuttle veteran himself. Norm, what do you take away from this briefing so far?
You're absolutely right, Miles, in that this was more about process than presenting any new information. Bill Reedy wanted to remind folks again that while they do have the info about heating and possibly in the left wing and the foam material or whatever it was striking the wing, it's still early. The process is usually one of ruling out rather than ruling in, and they'll continue it.
Yes, and of course at this point, way too early to make a direct link between that piece of foam, 3 inches by 7 inches by 30 inches, striking the wing, and what happened 16 days later. It is,
and given that the thought already has been that that couldn't be the cause, you have to keep looking for other things.
All right, a couple of other things that came up. This report of the Aerospace Safety and Advisory Panel critical of NASA's safety situation long run with the shuttle. I also tend to think it's probably very early to say that that has anything to do with what we saw here. To make a link between those two things, connect those dots at this juncture might be premature.
I think it is premature. First of all, they pointed out that they really didn't fire anyone off aboard. Some of those folks had been on there a very long time, so long, in fact, that their expertise was old. They wanted to bring in new blood. The people, in fact, the head of it was given NASA's highest medal, so it didn't sound like a firing.
The other issue which came up is the budgetary issues. NASA constantly trying to get more money to upgrade the shuttle fleet. This is a fleet that was supposed to last only 10 years. It's been flying 20 years plus, and it's supposed to fly another 20 years, at least before this accident. That was the thought. And over time, the money spent on upgrading it, it's been hard to get that money out of Congress. Do you have any sense that that might be in any way a contributor to what happened on Saturday morning?
I would doubt it, because when it was supposed to be a 10-year fleet, it was also supposed to be a fleet that was going to have a flight every week, 50 flights a year. The Columbia was nowhere near its 100-flight lifetime, so it's doubtful that that was a factor.
All right. The fact that they've opened up a second command post at another Air Force base outside of Fort Worth, Texas, that gives you a sense of how big this debris field is. How much is that going to complicate the effort of piecing this together, literally and figuratively?
It complicates it, but it doesn't render it impossible. And it was, of course, the fact that the debris field wound up being bigger than they had anticipated and did include areas nearer to Fort Worth and the Carswell Air Force Base that prompted them to open that new center.
And a final thought before we actually go right down to the ground there, so to speak, this thought of possibly finding something in the avionics, computers or recorders. Is that a big focus right now, or is most of the data right here in computers in Houston?
Most of the data is here on computers at Houston. Because much of the data gets telemetered to the ground real-time much of the time, there's not quite the need for a crash-proof recorder that you would find in airliners, and there is no such thing on the shuttle.
All right, let's, with that, as we talk about that tremendous debris field, let's send it to Ed Lavandera, who has been in Nacogdoches, Texas, ever since very early Saturday morning. He brings us the latest on the search for pieces of Columbia. Ed?
Miles, hi. Some good news here out of Nacogdoches, where officials here are starting to get the word and the help and the guidance that they've been hoping to get over the course of the last 24 hours. We understand now that teams will be heading out throughout the Nacogdoches and East Texas area to begin collecting and cataloging, and what they will do is find the debris. They're creating a priority list of what debris should be picked up first. Then teams will be sent out to these sites. They will be photographing and then bagging a lot of the debris that is found, and that will be taken to an airport here at Nacogdoches. And from there, we're not exactly sure as to what will happen, but the guidance that we've had so far is that much of this debris will be headed to Barksdale Air Force Base. And of course, these teams will be made up of 7 people. One of those people will be someone responsible for using GPS technology to help NASA and federal officials catalog and to figure out where exactly all of this debris has been spread out. And to help us understand this a little bit better, we're joined by James Kroll, who is the director of the Forest Resource Institute at Stephen F. Austin State University.
That's right.
And what exactly are your folks going to be doing?
Well, we have folks organized in teams that are accompanied by a GPS technician that goes out, locates every report that we get, goes out, finds it, categorizes it, and then takes a very precise GPS location on it.
And the goal here in the end is to create a map that will really show just how huge this debris field is, right?
Absolutely, and we already have quite a bit of it mapped, and it is a huge debris field. Our map is showing right now about 100 miles long and up to 20 miles wide.
Is that just through Nacogdoches County, or is that to what we're seeing through all of East Texas and western Louisiana?
It's not just through Nacogdoches County. It's a straight line pretty much from just south of Dallas through Nacogdoches County, right across the southern part of Nacogdoches City, on into Sabine County, Toledo Bend Reservoir, and then there's some of it into Louisiana.
Give us an idea of exactly what your person on the ground will be doing as they come across each piece of debris.
Well, first of all, they're not going to touch it. They'll go to the site, determine first of all, or make a decision whether it truly is shuttle debris, and then we've got an extensive coding system that allows them to categorize its size, its nature, how important it is, and then of course get the location.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Kroll. I appreciate you joining us. So Miles, here the officials seem to be rather excited. They've been working very busy here this morning, very quickly, as to try to get these teams out and so they can start collecting this debris, because there's still much more to collect, and that's what they want to be able to move on to. Miles.
All right, thank you very much, Ed Lavandera. We appreciate that, and some dramatic sights as we see more and more of those pieces come through, some of them more and more recognizable. A picture of that scorched helmet, which we saw earlier in the program, very tough to look at. Let's turn our attention to Washington. A large part of that story is unfolding there, and as the story progresses,